Hello, third grade, and welcome to Unit 1, Week 3 of Language Arts. I'm going to go over your vocabulary first, then we're going to talk about your spelling and grammar, and then we'll get into your readings for this week. Your first vocabulary word for Unit 1, Week 3 is the word scared. This is a word that a lot of you already know. Scared means to be afraid. So when you're afraid of something, you're also scared of it. So you can say, I was scared when I went to the dentist. I got scared when my friend jumped up behind me and surprised me. Your second word is the word classmate. A classmate is someone who's another student in your same class at school. So the rest of the third graders at our school are all your classmates. Your third word is the word pronounce. Pronounce is the way you say a word or a letter. So when you are trying to pronounce something clearly, you're trying to say it clearly. So if you have a difficult word that you're trying to read, you read it through carefully and clearly to make sure you're saying it the right way. When you read someone's name, you make sure to pronounce it or to say it the right way. Your next word is the word practicing. So practicing means you're doing something over and over again until you get better at it. So you might be practicing how to jump rope really fast, or you might be practicing how to go across the monkey bars, or you might be practicing how to read your weekly stories. And that means you're doing it over and over again so that you can get better at it every time. Your next word is the word tumble. When you tumble or something tumbles, it's falling kind of in a silly or clumsy way. So if you're going to tumble in the grass, that means you're flipping and rolling and around on the grass. So it's not that you're doing something a very specific way, you're kind of just being silly about it. Your next word is the word admires. When you admire something, you like it. So I can say, I admire a beautiful painting. So that means I really like it. I take time to look at it. It's something that I think is very nice. Or you could say, I admire my mom and dad because they do so many things to help me. Your next word is the word community. A community is the place, kind of like your neighborhood, where people work and play and study and go to school, where people live. That's your community. And your last word for this week is the word contribute. When you contribute something, you give something. So you're helping either by doing something like volunteering, or you might be helping or contributing by giving money to something like a charity. So those are going to be your 8 vocabulary words for this week, and you're going to see them appear in your weekly story in both your literature anthology and your reading and writing workshop books. Now next is going to be our spelling words for this week, and your words this week are all focused on the final E. So that's that silent E that's at the end of all of your words. Your words are date, lake, skate, plane, grade, fine, life, rice, wise, smile, rose, globe, smoke, come, used, step, rock, luck, sneeze, and stripe. Now, what you'll notice about the final E is that it makes the vowel that came before it a long vowel sound. So it makes that vowel say its name, like date, you're saying A because there's that final E. Fine, you're saying I in the middle of your word. So that's a long vowel I sound. Same with rose and used, you're saying a long U sound. So these are going to be your spelling words for this week. We're going to go ahead and talk about your grammar before we jump into your reading. Now for grammar this week, we're still going to be working on subjects, and we're going to talk a bit more about subjects and predicates and what makes it a complete subject, but we're also going to touch on something called sentence fragments. Now a sentence is a group of words that expresses or tells a complete thought. And every sentence has two parts. It has a subject and it has what we call a predicate. The subject is who the sentence is about, and the predicate tells what the subject does or what the subject is. So if I tell you, my friend likes ice cream, my friend is going to be the subject. That's who I'm talking about. What they do or describing them is likes ice cream. That's going to be my predicate. Now, a complete subject is all of the words in a subject. Now, a complete subject might be just one word, or it might be more than one word, or it might be a compound subject, which means more than one subject, that's connected by the word and. So a one-word subject, I gave you an example sentence. It says, Sarah walks her dog. So Sarah is the subject. There's no other words talking about Sarah. You just know that the subject is Sarah, and the predicate, or what she's doing, is walks her dog. Now, you can have more than one word as a subject. I can say, the colorful bird sings sweetly. So the colorful bird are all talking about the subject. So that has more than one word. So that's going to be like your complete subject. So all of the words talk about the subject. And then your compound subject is when you have more than one subject in your sentence. So I can say Leila and Samia are best friends. So my compound subject, I'm talking about two people in this sentence. I'm talking about Leila and about Samia. Now, a fragment is a sentence, is not a complete sentence because it may not have a subject. So a fragment is incomplete. Now remember, the word fragment means a part or a piece of the whole. So it's not the whole thing. So when you think of a sentence fragment, you're thinking about a piece of the sentence. So something's missing in there. Now, sometimes your sentence fragment is a fragment because your sentence or those words are missing a subject. So for example, if I say, went to the park, well, I don't know who we're talking about, right? My sentence is missing a subject. So I can say, who went to the park? That's going to be my question. Now I can fill it in by adding a subject, and I can say, Hamza went to the park. So now my sentence has a subject and it has a predicate. So Hamza is my subject. Went to the park is what he did. That's my predicate. Now I did also attach a video for you here. It's attached in your assignment that I want you guys to watch about simple sentences, about fragments, and about what we call run-on sentences. That's when you have way too many thoughts all squished into one sentence that should be split or broken apart into separate ones. Now, this video is also going to talk about something called the fanboys, which are coordinating conjunctions. I know that sounds like a really big phrase, right? That's a really big bunch of words, coordinating conjunctions, but it's something that we're going to talk about later. And this video is really great because it does introduce it, or it does tell you a little bit about it, so that when we get to it later, you can think back and say, oh yeah, I remember when I watched this in the video. So go ahead and watch it. Pay close attention, and then you can come back to this area when you are working on your grammar. Now we're going to get into our literature anthology book, and we are on Unit 1, Week 3. So here's my Unit 1. I'm going to go down Week 1, Week 2, Week 3, and our story this week is called Gary the Dreamer. Now this story is a narrative nonfiction. So a narrative is when you're telling your own story. You're talking about something that happened to you. Like you are the narrator, right? You are the speaker. You're the one who's talking about what's happening in the story. And nonfiction means it's not fake. Non means not, and fiction means fake. So it's not a fake story. So this is a real story that's being told by the person it happened to. So this is Gary telling about his own experience. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video for you. Please listen along carefully. And you can always go back and rewind it if you'd like.
Genre: narrative nonfiction. Essential question: how do people from different cultures contribute to a community? Read about the poet and author Gary Soto. Find out about Gary's culture and his community. Gary the Dreamer by Gary Soto. Illustrated by Elizabeth Gomez. I was born in April, a month when it rains and rains. Maybe this is why when I was 3 years old, I liked to open my mouth and taste rain. Also, April is when flowers bloom. Bees arrive out of nowhere. I lived in a small white house. My dog's name was Blackie. My cat's name was Boots. I had a canary just bigger than a big person's thumb. But my bird flew away when the little door of its cage was left open. So sorry, little canary, but I think it was me who left it open. I remember my high chair. I remember watching my parents and older brother at the dinner table. When I got a little bigger, I got to sit with them. Most mornings I ate oatmeal sprinkled with brown sugar. The sugar was like rocket energy. I blasted out of the house ready to play. I played tag with the neighbor kids. I played hide and seek. I played catch with oranges. In our backyard we had an orange tree. We also had plum, lemon, and apple trees. Lucky me! Anytime I was hungry for a snack, I just went outside and picked a fruit. I didn't have many toys. My army men were pinto beans and pebbles. I played with them in the dirt. I got dirty from playing hard. It seemed like a giant pepper shaker had sprinkled me with dust. My favorite fruit was watermelon. After I ate a slice of watermelon, I ended up with seeds in my mouth. These seeds were my ammo to spit at my older brother. He would spit some back at me. It was sort of like a fun war. The seeds flew all over the place. In kindergarten, I learned my colors. I learned to tie my shoes and to be nice. I liked to sing, too. My brother said he could hear me from the next classroom. I made my first friend, Daryl. I made another friend, Jose. At recess, we went on the slide. It was like a big shiny spoon and slippery. Then we went on the swings. It was scary but fun going high and jumping out. Then we went on the monkey bars. If I fell, I never got hurt. In first grade, I practiced writing the alphabet. The letters were big and blocky. I wrote my name, Gary. Some days my nice teacher would have to tell me, Gary, sit still. I wiggled a lot in my chair. I dreamed a lot. I was busy looking at the floor or my hands or out the window. Wow, could that be my canary in the tree? I couldn't pronounce some words. I couldn't say sandwich. I would say Sammy. I knew that 2 plus 2 was 4. But what was 5 plus 7? I counted out my answer on my fingers, sticky from the peanut butter and jam inside my Sammy. Stop and check. Ask and answer questions. Why does Gary like recess? Reread page 63 to find the answer.
So this is a good time for you guys to take a break and talk with one of the adults and go back and reread this page and talk to one of the adults in the house about why you think Gary likes recess. Why do you think that's more fun for him than when he's in the classroom?
In second grade, we collected money to help children in Africa. They didn't have anything to eat. I collected pennies, lots of pennies. I noticed that the pennies were the same as me. You see, I was naturally brown, and even browner from running in the sun. I felt like I was giving poor Africa a piece of me. My classmates got taller, but I seemed to stay the same size. I still liked playing at recess. I liked dodgeball, kickball, and foursquare. I would tumble when I played soccer. I was quick. I admire people who are quick and who play fair. Stop and check. Ask and answer questions. How does Gary feel about collecting pennies? Reread to find the answer. By third grade, I was a good reader. I loved picture books. The pages were bright and colorful as toucans, those tropical birds with long beaks. Every week I went to the public library. I checked out mountains of books. I was still a dreamer. Sometimes I watched ants going in and out of their holes, or I would watch water racing in the curb. The river of water carried matchsticks, leaves, gum wrappers, and those poor little ants. I rescued some of those ants. I put them carefully on my finger and set them on the cement curb. They lay for a while like weak little shadows. Then they woke up and staggered away. It was fun in third grade. I still stayed small, like those ants, I guess. I was scared of math, poor me. But reading was what I really liked. I read on the couch. I read in bed with carrot sticks, like pencils in my hands. I liked to read in my favorite tree. Once, when Boots came by, I tossed a piece of bark at him. He looked around and meowed. I giggled. I tossed another piece of bark at him. This time Boots saw me and climbed up the tree. We sat on a fat limb, the two of us. I read him a story about a bird. He licked his paws. The engine inside him began to purr. I guess Boots liked reading too. On weekends, my family went to Chinatown. We bought groceries there at the Mexican store. I remember mariachis roving the street. Their sombreros were huge. You couldn't see their eyes, only their hanging mustaches. Their trumpets blared, the guitars strummed. Their violins seemed to weep. The guitarron thumped deeply. One time, I saw a dog dance to the mariachi music. The dog went back and forth, like he was doing the cha-cha. Every night I took a bubble bath in our deep tub. The water roared from the faucet as I climbed in. The bubbles rose like mountains. No, like really pretty clouds. I scooped up the bubbles and patted them onto my face. I pretended that I had a beard. I placed some of the bubbles on my head. Oh, a sombrero. I was a dreamer. I was sometimes in another world. In bed, I covered myself with 2 blankets. I thought about the day before I fell asleep, so tired. My legs kicked. As I dreamed, I was running for a touchdown, and the whole school was watching me. Gary Soto grew up to be an author. He dreamed up ideas for more than 40 books for children and grown-ups. He shares his Mexican-American culture through his poems and stories.
Okay, now that we've made it to the end of our story in our literature anthology book, you are definitely welcome to go back and rewind and re-listen to it throughout the week. I also do want you to practice reading it on your own. Now we're going to hop into your reading and writing workshop book, and we're going to go to our Unit 1, Week 3, and our essential question from this week, just like we heard in the previous story, is how do people from different cultures contribute, or what do they give to help make their community? Now we've got our vocabulary words here one more time with some example sentences and questions. You are welcome to pause the video here if you want to read through it quietly on your own. The pictures are also there to help you so that you can see what they're talking about. Let's go into your second story over here, which is another narrative nonfiction. Now remember, we said those are A person who's telling their own story and it's real, something that really happened to them.
Genre, narrative nonfiction. Room to grow. Our new home in Portland. Essential question. How do people from different cultures contribute to a community? Read how one family helps their community grow. Spring in the city. My name is Kiku Soto. Last spring, my family and I moved from the country to the big city. Our new home in Portland had no yard. There wasn't even a tiny plot of land, so Mama made an indoor garden. First, she and Papa planted seeds in pots. Then they hung them from hooks. Next, they crammed plants onto shelves. Green vines tumbled over desks. Soon our house had plants everywhere. At first, I was scared to start school. I was afraid no one would be my friend. But I soon met a classmate. Jill Hernandez and I were practicing reading aloud one day. She helped me say her last name, and I helped her pronounce mine. The next day, we were best friends. Jill spent lots of time at my house. Map of Oregon. Key. Dot, city. Star, capital. Blue line, river. Map labels. Washington, Pendleton, Portland, Salem, Eugene, Oregon, Ashland. An idea for a garden. One afternoon, Jill and her mother came to visit Mama and Papa and me. First, they saw our beautiful potted plants. Jill's mother said, "Jill admires your indoor garden. She has told me so much about it." We all sat down while Mama served tea. First, she put green tea into the tea bowl. Then she added hot water and stirred. She handed the bowl to Jill's mother and bowed. Mama's special tea bowls. My mother taught me how to make tea, said Mama. She also taught me how to plant a traditional Japanese garden. I learned to make the most of a small, compact space. All of a sudden, Jill's mother smiled. "Can you help us with a project?" she asked. "Our community wants to plant a garden. Our plot is very small. There is so much we want to grow." Papa looked at Mama, and they both bowed. "Yes," they said. "Grandmother in Japan." A garden grows. First, we had a meeting with the community. Everyone agreed to contribute. Some people brought seeds, tools, and dirt. Then the next day, we met and started our garden. Papa built long, open boxes. Next, we filled them with dirt. The tallest box went close to the back wall. The boxes got shorter and shorter. The shortest box was in the front. "All the plants will get sunlight without making shade for the others," Mama said. Papa building boxes. Jill and I planting seeds. Then we used round, flat stones to make a rock path. Papa said that in Japan, stones are an important part of a garden. Finally, we planted the seeds. Jill and I worked in the garden all summer. Our community grew many different vegetables. At the end of the summer, we picked enough to have a cookout. Mama brought a big pot of miso and vegetable stew. Everyone thanked Mama and Papa for their help. They brought a bit of Japan to Portland. I was so proud. Look what we picked. Make connections. What did Kiku's family do to help their new community? What parts of their culture did they share? How can you and your family contribute to your community?
Okay, so we're going to get into our comprehension strategy and skill. And this is going to help us to gain a better understanding of the story. It's also going to help us to understand how to take the story apart and look at it piece by piece.
Ask and answer questions. Ask yourself questions as you read, then look for details to support your answers. Find text evidence. Look at the section Spring in the City on page 55. Think of a question, then read to answer it. Spring in the City. My name is Kiku Sato. Last spring, my family and I moved from the country to the big city. Our new home in Portland had no yard. There wasn't even a tiny plot of land, so Mama made an indoor garden. First, she and Papa planted seeds in pots. Then they hung them from hooks. Next, they crammed plants onto shelves. Green vines tumbled over desks. Soon our house had plants everywhere. At first, I was scared to start school. I was afraid no one would be my friend. But I soon met a classmate. Jill Hernandez and I were practicing reading aloud one day. She helped me say her last name, and I helped her pronounce mine. The next day, we were best friends. Jill spent lots of time at my house. I have a question. Why were there so many plants in Kiku's house? I read that they did not have a yard. Mama and Papa planted lots of seeds. I can answer my question. Kiku's family liked to grow things and didn't have the space to do it outdoors. Your turn. Reread an idea for a garden. Think of one question. You might ask, why did Jill's mother ask Kiku's mother for help? Read the section again to find the answer.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and talk about our comprehension skill, and we're going to talk about sequencing. When we're talking about sequence, we're talking about the order that things are happening. So we're going to take a minute to read through this section, and I'll play it for you so you can listen along.
Sequence. Sequence is the order in which events take place. Look for words such as first, next, then, and finally. These signal words show the sequence of events. Find text evidence. In this autobiography, the events are told in sequence. I see the signal word first in Spring in the City on page 55. I will read to find out what happens next. I will look for signal words to help me. Graphic organizer. Event. First, Mama and Papa planted lots of seeds. Event. Then they hung pots from hooks.
So as you go through the story, you were able to fill in what was the next event or what was the next thing that happened after they hung the pots from the hooks. Let's go ahead and take a look at more information about the genre that we're talking about, which is a narrative nonfiction, and our vocabulary strategy that we'll use to help us understand words that are new or unfamiliar to us.
Narrative nonfiction. Room to Grow is an autobiography. An autobiography is a kind of narrative nonfiction. Tells the true story of a person's life in order. Is written by that person and uses I and me. Find text evidence. I know Room to Grow is an autobiography. It is a true story written by Kiku about her life. She uses the words I and me. Kiku's story also has headings and a map. Text features. Headings. Headings tell what a section of text is mostly about. Map. A map is a flat drawing of a real place.
Now, these different text features are ones that you're going to see in a lot of different things that you read. The headings are usually bigger words. They're written bigger and bolder or darker than other words. And a lot of times, like here in this story, it'll be in a different color. So it's easy for you to spot, and it gives you a clue about what you're reading. Now, the map or any kind of image will usually be somewhere on the page where it's some kind of picture, it's showing you something. And a lot of times it will come with a caption or a title that tells you a little more about what you're looking at.
Compound words. A compound word has two small words in it. Put together the meanings of the two smaller words. Figure out the meaning of the compound word. Find text evidence. I see the compound word afternoon on page 56. It has two smaller words, after and noon. I know what after means. I know noon means 12 o'clock. I think afternoon means a time after 12 o'clock. One afternoon, Jill and her mother came to visit.
So compound words, the word compound means you're putting something together. So compound words is when you're putting more than one word together to make a new word. So just like they did with the word afternoon and the words that you have underneath, the word sunlight, under where it says your turn, and the words cookout, these are compound words where you can break them out into individual words, and you can use what you know about those individual words to put them together and understand the meaning of the compound word. Now we're also going to talk a little bit about our grammar. So I'm going to go through the write about text where you're going to see what they're talking about, and then you're going to see what we're talking about as far as grammar again when we're writing with a complete subject or a simple subject. Let's go ahead and listen here.
Write about the text. I answered the question, what point was the author trying to make in writing this selection? The author's point in Room to Grow is that when people plan and work hard, they can do more than they expect. Kiku's parents knew how to grow many plants in a small space. First, they planted a little indoor garden that contained many different plants. Then, Kiku's parents helped the local community garden figure out how to grow more plants in a small space. Everyone in the neighborhood worked together to plant the garden. They grew many plants that summer. Topic sentence. My first sentence explains the author's message. Sequence. I used words that show order to organize my text. Grammar. Everyone in the neighborhood is the complete subject of this sentence. Concluding statement. The last sentence sums up my informative text.
Okay, so that takes us through the end of our notes for today. Please feel free to go back and review our notes that we talked about that are in the shared drive, and you can go back and rewatch this video. If you have any questions, definitely let me know and join the live session. Otherwise, I hope you guys have an amazing day. Take care, third grade. Bye-bye.